Hello, friends. So, we're going to talk about conditioning today. It's a big thing in this non-duality spiritual search stuff that we have all this conditioning that stops us from seeing our true self. We make a mistake, and we mistake Brahman, which is here, for the world. So we see the world as the classic rope and the snake analogy, and we see this snake, this terrible, dangerous thing, but in reality, it's the rope. So, and it's our conditioning. This is where the error comes from. 2 years ago, I had been listening to Swami Sarvapriyananda really consistently. I'd listened to his Vedanta Sara course. I'd listened to his two of his Upanishads courses that he'd done so far, and they're really long. They're like 80 videos each. The Mandukya, the Gaudapada Karaka, and the Kata Upanishad, the one with what's it called? It's a little boy who goes to visit death. And I was following his Bhagavad Gita videos as well, which are all based around Advaita Vedanta. So it's the Advaita Vedanta viewpoint of the Bhagavad Gita rather than a devotional interpretation. So there are different interpretations out there. And he said he was stopping for the summer, so I tried to find out where he was going to be, and it happened he was going to be in England. And I looked where it was. It was at this yoga festival, and I'd never done yoga before except when I was 17. So I contacted my brother who did yoga. He hadn't been doing yoga for the last few years, but he had done quite serious yoga before for many years. And so I said, come on, Daniel, let's go to this yoga festival. And Rupert Spira was there as well, so it was great. I get to see them both. And as soon as I arrived, we drove up and we parked, and walking towards the big tent where Swami Sarvapriyananda was going to talk, I saw him there outside the tent, and I started charging towards him. And I think he was terrified. He kind of looked a bit worried and then kind of got away. So anyway, I spoke to him a bit later, but yeah, I think he's, I think I seemed a bit too much. Anyway, there we go. And then there was also Rupert Spira later, who I didn't actually speak to in person. I did speak to Swami Sarvapriyananda in person as well, which was nice. But I asked him a question. So after one of Swami Sarvapriyananda's talks, I asked him a question about the snake and the rope. So I said, because I had, at that point, I'd really got into non-duality, and there was a moment one day I really saw that the reality was, everything we see is not real. It's the illusion, and it's in fact Brahman. So it's in fact God. And this was a very strong feeling that I got. And so but then the thing was that if you really, really get it, you really believe it, you think, well, but where did this all come from? Why is it all so well integrated? The cars and the food and everything works so well. I don't think I just made it all up out of nothing. This error that apparently I had created, I did very well with this error, with this illusion. It's incredibly complex, and it doesn't seem like the sort of thing that just, you mistake a dark shape in the room for, I don't know, a monster or a dog, I don't know, if you're a little kid, or a witch, as I did when I was a kid. But then you see it's just a coat on the chair or something like that. But you don't mistake it for the coat on the chair for incredibly well-integrated system of physics, maths, all the planets, the universe, all the different people. And it just, but where does it all come from? So I said this to him. I said, with the snake and the rope analogy, where does if you've never seen a snake before, because that's the idea, all of this came out of nothing. It's, you are the only reality. And I'm not saying in a solipsistic way, I'm saying that we are, whatever's looking out of our eyes is the only thing. And what if we've never seen the world before like this? How can it be like this? How is the error like this? Why is it like this and not some other way? And so the way I phrased it was, I said, and you can actually find it on YouTube. It's the World Yoga Festival or something from a few years ago. I'll put the clip on one of the videos later. So I said, so if we've never seen a snake before, how is it we mistake the rope for a snake? Because we're starting from scratch here. We've never seen a snake. Nothing's real except for the rope, and yet we mistake the rope for a snake. And the answer he gave, he said, this is actually an old question that was asked, thousands of years ago, or 1,000 and a bit years ago, about the dualists would attack the Advaitins and say, well, yeah, but where do you get the snake from? How did you think up a snake if you've never seen a snake before? And I asked him whether it was a weakness of the analogy. I wanted to give him... I wanted him to be able to save face, to be honest. So he goes, oh yes, that's the analogy. The analogy, analogies and metaphors are only up to a certain point, because if they really do describe perfectly the thing, then they're the thing. They're not an analogy. So there's always a limit to how far the analogies go. So I said that. He was up on stage and I was sitting in the audience. And he said that this was an ancient attack on the Advaitins. And he said the idea is that to mistake something for a snake, you don't actually have to have ever seen a real snake. So you can see a snake in a movie or something like that. And so then you can mistake the rope for a snake. So it doesn't need to be a real snake. So, and he said that what would have happened is because I think he understood what the point of view I was coming from, which was kind of everything's in consciousness. Where does all this form? And he said that with the vrittis, kind of the thoughts, you would have had something like a snake in the past. So I suppose what's happened is that in the distant past, he was talking in terms of reincarnations, incarnation, reincarnation. Anyway, so that it became more and more like a snake as every time we see the world, it solidifies. It becomes more like the thing. We mistake it for the thing that we'd seen. We've never really seen a real thing like this, but through many, many generations, or incarnations, we've seen, or reincarnations, we've seen this slowly solidify. So what we see as a car, or the world, a forest, is actually because in a previous mental life, not in the life of the world, but we'd seen something, we'd been presented with something similar. And before then, we'd been presented with something similar. And every time we mistake it, and it gets more accurate, really. So that's why we've got such a complex thing around us. So this is conditioning. So conditioning isn't even the mistake that I'm separate from the world. The conditioning is actually everything. All of this is a kind of conditioning that through many generations, or if you prefer, because I always think that the reality, the ultimate reality is outside time. Time is part of the mind, or part of Maya, if you prefer. So all of this would have happened outside time. So it wasn't even like many progressions. It was more like iterations happening, getting more accurate. And here we've got this big mistakes that's arisen in the moment, this illusion that we've created through iterations that are outside time, etc. So it's not just the fact that we feel that we are separate from the world instead of understanding that we're being and consciousness itself, or existence itself. There are other things. The whole world is a conditioning. And how much do we want to remove the conditioning? I suppose complete enlightenment, it would all disappear. There would only be Brahman, only be the ultimate reality, and it's you, and that's all there is, complete. But then I think that would be what happens after death. Clearly, that if that happened to you right now, if you got this ultimate enlightenment, all your conditioning was completely erased, you would just die. Well, there would be no death, because everything would just go. So when we talk about the enlightened while living that they talk about in Advaita Vedanta, the Jiva Mukti, that you are enlightened while living. And then when you die, you have release. You don't come back. So we maintain, with enlightenment, we can maintain some of the conditioning. I spoke in a few videos ago about the ego, in my opinion, that we don't need to get rid of the ego. The ego is a useful tool if we don't let it take over. If we use it for how it should be used, it's a part of our makeup. So it's as individual beings, as separate selves, this within the illusion. Maybe you want the illusion to disappear all at once, but I'm actually happy with it continuing and then exploring all this wonderful world. So if we have eliminate the ego, and you wouldn't know which mouth is yours, you wouldn't know your name, you wouldn't be able to, your driving license, you wouldn't know what these cards mean with these names on, this is the name of somebody. You wouldn't really survive very long. And so this completely killing the ego it's better just to see the ego as it is. It's not you. And when you understand that, and when you stop turning it into this kind of a monster that's trying to stop you getting enlightenment, I think it goes into its place. Just like if you've got a dog that's badly trained, it's all trying to do what it wants and pull you everywhere. But if you train it well, it's just perfectly calm because it knows that you're in control and, peaceful. Now, if you did eliminate the ego, like I suppose some of these great masters, some either did eliminate it or reduced it or saw it as put it in its place on the rug by the fire, that your conditioning would be what maintains the body to some degree. Your conditioning, if you don't know which is your body anymore, the body will be conditioned, the mind will be conditioned so that it can still feed itself, so that it can still do stuff. You may see it as a little thing doing its own thing, but I don't even think it would be like that, but I'll let you speculators, because I'm just speculating, so use your imagination what it would be like. Tell me in the comments. So this conditioning we see in enlightened people, for example, Nisargadatta Maharaj smoked until the end of his life, I suppose, maybe not completely to the end of his life, but he was a heavy smoker. He used to sell cigarettes. That was his job. He had these little biddy shops. Biddies are little Indian cigarettes. And he smoked, and people would say to him, you're enlightened and you are Brahman. Nothing can touch you, and yet you're smoking. And he would say, that's the body. The body is the body's habits. Let the body do what it wants to do. I don't think I put those words in his mouth. I don't think he said, let the body do what it wants to do. But that was basically the idea. He was saying that I smoke. And Sri Ramakrishna, he loved jalebi. Apparently, it's an Indian sweet. I don't know what it is, but apparently he loved jalebi. Even though he was enlightened, he liked this sweet. He told people, bring this. He didn't say me. He said, bring this, some sweets or something nice to eat. Bring this, not me anymore. Bring it to the body. So he didn't always even associate with his body. Now, and also Ramana Maharshi, he would go around, if people spilt spices on the floor, he would go around and pick up the mustard seeds and carefully put them together and put them in the kitchen so they could be used. And you think, why bother? You're enlightened, you're everything, nothing, you lack nothing, you are everything, what's with mustard seeds? And it's the conditioning, it's the things that they had before, and they continued. Now, so is conditioning something that we need to eliminate? And you can share your opinion on this, because I don't have such a strong opinion. I think that no, it's a whole lot of conditioning that keeps us going. the ability to tie your shoelaces, for example. If you completely eliminated your conditioning, okay, so the world would disappear, but slightly less elimination of conditioning. And your laces, you wouldn't know how to do your laces. You've got this, you've conditioned yourself to do your laces. You've conditioned yourself to know what a glass of water is. You don't just look at it and think, what is this strange substance I see before me? So I think it's a blend. It's not quite as clear cut as we see in a lot of non-duality. Eliminate the ego. It doesn't want you to eliminate it. It's going to make your life hell. You're going to go through the dark night of the soul. You're going to really suffer because it really wants to continue living. It's just thoughts. It's not an enemy. It's like your faithful dog that's there to help you keep your body going. And then the conditioning as well. It's not about eliminating all conditioning. Maybe if you want to be completely enlightened and escape the world, then try that if you want. But I would prefer to, if I could get enlightened, if it happens, which I don't think is something I'm really pushing for really anymore. But it would be to share this stuff with other people and explore the world from this point of view, from the feeling of wholeness, rather than fragmentation. A feeling of invulnerability rather than vulnerability and fear that we're full of, and that advertising tries to instill in us so that we do the right thing and hand over our money when we should. So I don't know. I think that it's not such a strict thing as we hear. I think a lot of this is actually a lot less, in some ways, not as simple as they say, but in some ways much simpler. It really is about just exploring your being, exploring this moment, which even the word moment is a time word, but just seeing what's here, being with it, living less in conceptual thought and living more in reality. So, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.